Hey, Paola.
Hi, Ola. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yourself, dear? How are you?
Fine, very fine, and happy to be here with you today.
Very happy to be with you too. So, today we're meeting just to get a fun time, to have a little bit of the fun time together and talk about our interests and combine them into nice series of information regarding type 2 diabetes. So, I think we should be first starting from introduction. So,
Yeah.
Paula, mic is yours.
Okay, well, I want to start by saying I'm Paula Martinez. I'm a general physician and I'm very passionate about prevention. And I think that's why I got to meet Ola because this brought us together and I just think it's like my goal in life to help people to be more conscious about their body and how to take care of it. So that's why I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about this. And
Yeah,
I'm glad to be
I'm very glad that you're here. And as you said, the prevention and talking about health is something what connected us because
here. Yeah,
you dedicated your life um, to helping people, and I did the
yeah,
same. And you are like medical professional, and I am a biologist, and I specialize in clinical nutrition and some metabolic health and functional foods. So for me, prevention and the holistic approach to life and to human's body is just one of the most important things. And I based my approach with nutrition. So the lifestyle and the way how we feed our body. So this is quick one about us. Probably next episode we might be throwing some more information or different information about us, but I think that's
yeah.
enough intro for now. And we'll be talking about type 2 diabetes. And so to start talking about type 2 diabetes, we need to say something about carbohydrates because this is what the biggest sort of hero of this video is going to be carbohydrates. So Paula, if you don't mind just saying a few things about what the carbohydrates are and few things about them so we can have enough background to understand the context for type 2 diabetes.
Sure. Well, as you say, we need to start by the simple stuff when it comes to diabetes, pre-diabetes, because it's such a big topic to talk about.
Mhm.
And sometimes we just focus like in the general concept, but if we don't understand what causes everything, then we can just never truly understand what happens in diabetes, right? And I think we can agree, as you say, the star of this topic are carbohydrates. And I think we have all heard about them, especially now that we can see in the media all these influencers talking about, oh, just avoid carbohydrates or eat a lot of protein and all that. But what are they really? Right? We don't, we sometimes, it's a word that we hear, but we're not sure what they are. And yeah, they are macronutrient. And that's why we may hear about them because it's a great and easy way to obtain energy. And these carbohydrates are just made of some chains of, in a simple way, we can call it chains of sugar, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that is sometimes hard to understand.
It
Like,
is.
I mean, like to relate carbohydrates to sugar, why is it related? Well,
Mm-hmm.
because these sugars are the ones that uh, create the carbohydrates, right? Are like the simplest form of them. And it's not only that, um, the carbohydrates are like a natural compound that we can find everywhere in nature.
Yeah.
Is like the most common compound in nature. And this is why it's very common to find it as a source of energy. Actually, um, as it is an easy way to obtain energy, and it's actually cheap. It is
Relatively cheap.
very, they are very consumed everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Just as an example, rice is one of the most common carbohydrates that we can find, feeding most of the population around the world.
Just the
Why?
main
Because
food.
it is cheap and it gives you energy in a very quick way, right? But
Correct.
is it actually being nutritious? We need to
That depends, right?
understand that. Yeah, it's gonna depend.
Yeah.
And some people may think, well, how are you telling me that carbohydrates are made of shades of sugar? And then you tell me rice is a carbohydrate. Well, rice is not sweet, right?
Yes,
Not
correct.
always.
That's
So how am I
confusing.
going to be relating one thing to another?
Mm-hmm.
And this is the main problem because I'm sure it happens to you too. I have a lot of patients that are going through prediabetes or insulin resistance, and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't eat anything that's sweet.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but you're having a lot of carbohydrates, and at the end, it's just sugar, right? I think we
Mm.
can agree with
Yeah, so true.
that. And now that we get to that, I think we need to understand that these carbohydrates get converted to sugar
Mm-hmm.
once we ingest them. I mean, we can get them in the form of, let's say, I don't know, give me an example of something people may not think it's a carbohydrate.
Mm. Well, let's go with rice because that's something what is like it's
Yeah,
not sweet. It's actually a savory thing. With I don't know, a chicken or something, you would not expect it to be sweet. But as you
yeah,
said,
exactly.
it's the most common rice and pasta, for example, and people would not
Yeah,
associate them with sugars in a general approach.
exactly.
So
So
we
for example, you
we eat them,
try,
right?
and you think it's very salty. I'm having it along with a burger, so I don't think it may be at the end having some modifications in my sugar levels, right? But once you get this rice in your mouth and they go all the way through your digestive system,
Hmm?
something very interesting is going to happen there because there are a lot of chemical reactions going on where in order to actually use this food that we're ingesting, or these fries in this case, the carbohydrates need to get broken into a
Hmm?
smallest
Mm-hmm.
chemical compound that are actually simple sugars. And
Yeah.
this simple sugar is the glucose that we can after get measure in our blood, because that's the only way our body's going to be able to use these carbohydrates that we are ingesting in the form of rice. So at the end, it's going to be glucose,
Just sugar.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just sugar. So you may not be able to do another, but at the end, it's sugar.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got this rice is in our digestive system is going to be broken down into smaller bits, and then it's going
Mhm.
to end up as a glucose in our blood, which we can measure. But then what's happening with this glucose, right? Once it's
Yes, exactly.
in the blood.
As we said, it's an easy way to get energy, right? So
Mhm.
once we get these little simple sugars going into our bloodstream, our body, in a specific our pancreas, get a sign that some glucose is going on there and we need to use it as energy. And for that, we have a hormone called insulin. I think we have all heard about that too. And insulin is gonna function as a little key that is gonna travel to in our blood to get into some target cells where this insulin that seems like a key is gonna open some doors for glucose
Mhm.
to get inside these target cells
Okay.
where it is going to be used as energy. But something important here is that it's only gonna be used as energy if we actually need it,
If we need it,
you
exactly.
know?
Hmm.
Because sometimes we just eat, sorry, because we know that we have to eat, not exactly because we are hungry or because we are performing some activities that need more energy. So we just eat because we have to, and we are not being conscious of what we are eating. And sometimes we are just giving more energy than needed to ourselves. What is going to happen? Well, the same that happens when you put the charger to your laptop and it doesn't need to be connected, right? It's not going to be used. And then what's going to happen? We're just going to store this energy. And how are we going to store this energy? Because we can just keep it there in every one of our cells, right? So then's when some other organs are going to start to intervene. And for example, the biggest one here is our liver,
Hmm.
and is the one that's going to say, you know what, I'm going to keep this energy for you, and I'm going to keep it in the way of glycogen. So if you need it in a few days, it's going to be here for you. But what
I'm going
happens
to
if
run.
it's still exactly? But what happens if you're still not using that energy? Your liver is just storage, and storage is not going to be storing this energy forever, right?
Yeah.
So you're just gonna need to use it or storage it in a different way. And this is when this is gonna get converted into fats.
Mm.
And then what is gonna happen with this fat? Well, it can't just stay in the liver. So
Mm.
again, it's gonna get to some other parts of our body where
Mm.
it's gonna be stocked, and it's gonna get in the way of some other chemical reactions. And then we're just gonna start having a lot of inflammation all over our body. Why? Because we are not even conscious that we are eating a lot of carbohydrates and
Yeah.
just filling to the top our body with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. You said something very important because, like, we we just know that the carbs are easy to give us energy. We know that when we feel low, we can have a piece of fruit, we can have a slice of bread, we can have a cookie, we can have a coffee with sugar, we can have a juice, and it will help us to lift the energy level.
Mm-hmm,
But we just don't really think that there is only a particular amount of sugar which we actually, I mean, sugar slash energy we actually need,
mm-hmm.
right? And most of the time we're just sitting, like at least the majority of the society is just sitting, like we're sitting now, right? We were exercising today, but for most of the time, a lot of people just sitting. So um, we just we have this energy stored to be
Mm-hmm.
used. We have this in the form of glycogen. It's in the muscle, in the liver. So it's not that if we don't, that we always have to keep having this carbohydrates because
Mm-hmm.
the reserves are full. If we sit all
Exactly.
day, sometimes we have a day when we don't exercise, for example, it's rarely, but if we have a day when we don't exercise, we don't really need as much carbohydrates.
Mm-hmm.
So our body's got enough to be converted into glucose. And if we provide too much than our body needs as an energy per day, as you said, we will have this stored. And when it's stored,
Mm-hmm.
we'll start be storing somewhere, and then this place, like liver, will run out of the space, and we'll start
Mm-hmm.
storing in the fat tissue, and that is
Yeah.
going to be at some point visible or causing a problems or causing a metabolic disease. So
Yeah.
this is very important to know that a lot of products which we're eating are actually carbohydrates.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you said, people are like, oh, it's not sweet, so I don't have a lot of sugar. But when you look on plate of most probably most people in your environment, and I do the same, I can see exactly the same thing, that the most of the plate are carbohydrates. This is the
Yeah.
pasta, rice, bread, burger buns, muffins, cookies, milk, fruit. There's a
Hmm.
lot of carbohydrates, and I see a lot of people saying, yeah, but I don't do anything in particular, anything special. I'm putting on weight, or I'm getting more and more sort of soft, or, depending on how people would actually describe putting on weight. But
Hmm.
when we provide more than we need, we will store. There is no
Hmm.
magic button that this energy provided will disappear. It will not disappear. So
Exactly.
we just need to really stress that the carbohydrates are everywhere. And
Hmm.
even if they seen as a better carbohydrate, like of course, if you compare a muffin or cookie, of course a sweet potato or a carrot or beans is better,
Yeah.
but it's still
At least it has
carbohydrate.
some vitamins, right?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So it just depends what the category you're considering,
Hmm.
but it's still carbohydrate. It's
Yeah.
still full
E-
of carbohydrates, and the body will
Exactly.
react the same to the carbohydrate from
Exactly.
rice and from cookie.
Yeah.
So this is
It's
something
not like our body, for us, it is gonna taste different, but for our body, it's just
exactly the
the
same.
same. I mean, at
It's
the end of
chemically
the
the
day,
same.
we
Mhm.
need to broken all that into simple
Yeah.
sugar, and it's the same. It's not gonna be like, oh, I'm just gonna avoid this spike in your glucose because it was an apple. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's not
Yeah.
gonna happen. It's still sugar,
It's still glucose,
yeah.
right? And
And if
and
you don't eat it, well, sorry.
yeah, so true. So we've got this definition of glucose. A glucose is a simple sugar, and it
Yeah.
provides our body with the primary source of energy. And this is what we need to
Mhm.
remember. And we also need to remember that glucose comes from carbohydrates, right?
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
in as a result of chemical reactions to convert
Hmm.
one just to convert the energy in our body and provide us this fast and primary source of energy. Okay,
Yeah.
so that is interesting, very interesting. I think we
Something
just
to
shed
think about,
some,
right?
yeah, we just shed some light on it. But if we go to considering carbs as a simple and complex, how you could just bring slightly more information, what the simple carbs, what the complex carbs are, and maybe some few examples just to give
Yeah.
us
Just
slightly
to get
more
to understand
perspective.
this a little bit
Mhm.
further, right?
Yeah.
Well, as you said, we have these two forms of carbohydrates. The simple ones are the ones that we can actually recognize better and faster because we see them everywhere and we can identify them pretty fast. And these are the ones that we can actually relate to this sugary flavor, right? This sweet, sweet flavor,
The sweet flavor.
such as cookies, some sodas,
Mhm.
uh, fruit juice, I don't know,
Cakes.
flakes. Yeah, sugar flakes. They taste very well, but these are just simple sugars. And what happens here? These simple sugars, we are gonna digest them faster because they just have one unit of monosaccharides, right? So they're gonna be digested very fast. Therefore, we're gonna get energy very fast from them. But at the same time, this means that they're gonna give us a spike in our glucose very fast too.
Hmm.
And thing here is that yeah, we're gonna get energy very fast, but it is gonna be gone very fast too.
Hmm.
And after that, we're just gonna feel like we need more because it's not making us feel like we are full or satisfied. It's just a quick rise in our energy and then it's gone,
Hmm.
right? And those are the most common ones. Yep. And then we have the ones that are complex. the complex carbohydrates. And these are sometimes a little bit harder to recognize because they are not always that sweet. And an example of them are what we just said, fries, rice, even some vegetables such as broccoli may have some complex carbs, sweet potatoes, you
Beans.
know, yeah, and this bread, even if it's like whole wheat bread, yeah,
Mm.
they are complex carbs. If
Mm.
you're having your sandwich or something like that, well, it still has some complex carbs. Not because you see it with some grains all over there, is that, oh, this is um, super healthy and it's not gonna make some alterations in my blood sugar. Well, it is going to do it. And the difference here is that they're gonna get metabolized in a more slow way
Mhm.
because they have more units of saccharides, right? And this may help to make us feel fuller for a long period of time.
Yeah, longer. Yeah.
Um, exactly. And it may take a little more time to get the energy feeling in our body. Um, and at the same time, the spike in glucose is going to take a little bit longer to appear. And that's the main difference. But we need to get to know both types of carbohydrates because
That
they
is,
exist and we ingest them every day. So we need to understand that they are still um, they're giving us energy that's completely good. We're not saying that simple or complex carbohydrates are good or bad. They are just nutrients giving us energy, but we need to understand how they work in order to use them correctly, right?
yeah, in order to understand, because as we
Mhm.
that was for me that was always shocking how it's like, oh, this is not sweet, so it's not going to affect my blood sugar. But
Mhm.
if we want to go a step further, like our body is able to make sugar out of everything if it's needed.
Yeah.
So even if we don't eat carbohydrates, we will get this sugar
Mhm.
level raised anyway at some point, right? So yeah, I think at the moment we just gone through simple sugars, complex sugars. We talked about how um, they affect sugar, like blood sugar level, and the
Mhm.
main differences. So I think we can finish this video on in this moment
Yeah.
and invite everyone to listen to the next one, which we will go slightly deeper and closer to the topic, which is type 2 diabetes. So, Paula, thank you very much for now, and we'll see you soon. Thank you very much. I'll speak later. Thanks.
Thank you, Lola. It's
Bye.
always great
See you
to be here
later.
with you.
Great to talk to you too. Bye.
Bye.